So, what Hobbes points out is it may seem bleak giving this much power to one individual, but it's better than the alternative. What he turns to in chapter 18 are the rights of the sovereign. And the simple answer with this is they're absolute. The sovereign has a right to do whatever the sovereign decides is right. Who gave him the right? We all did, through mutual covenants with one another. Everyone agrees to allow the sovereign to represent them. Those who voted for him, those who didn't vote for him, etc., and authorize the actions, judgments, whims, follies, etc., of this one who's given the power, as though they were their own actions, judgments, whims, follies, etc. Right? Society does this because it's in their best interest. We don't have to look everywhere, right, to determine where the danger is. We know the one person who's got the power. And with this one person, whatever they say goes, and since whatever they say goes, they're rules. Right? They're rules that govern conduct. Justice is whatever the sovereign says justice is. Right? But of the particular kind of rights of the sovereign, Hobbes lays out like 12 of them. Sheldon, don't do that. I'm sorry, my cat has followed me into the room now. Alright. You want to leave, buddy? Go on. Thank you. See, over my cat I'm sovereign. He does what I tell him. Anyhow, firstly, right, the agreement to obey the sovereign power is the first and absolute agreement. Right? How is this? Well, we have authorized and given up our right to govern ourselves to this individual. Right? This sovereign is the condition for the possibility of any other agreement. If I'm going to come to an agreement with you, lay down rights mutually, right, the only way I can trust you to live up to your end of the bargain is because the sovereign says that we have to live up to our agreements. Right? And if something goes south in this agreement, I say, hey sovereign, or hey commonwealth, or hey contract law procedure, right? And a bunch of very big guys with guns or sticks or clubs or swords come over and enforce the contract. Right? Sovereign power cannot be forfeited. Think it through. I authorize and give up my right to govern this fictional person right here. If you give up your right to govern yourself and authorize all of this fictional person right here's actions. We didn't ask that person. Right? And if that person says, I don't want to do it, Grant, you do it instead. Sure, I can tell you what to do, but where did I get the power? From this person that we all authorized. So sovereign power cannot be forfeited. Right? No man can, without injustice, protest against the institution of the sovereign declared by the major part. Right? How is that? Well, we don't even have a concept of justice until we have sovereign power. This is the condition for the possibility of justice. Remember, justice is honoring our agreements, and we can only really honor our agreements when we trust the other individual we agree with to live up to their end of the bargain. And without a power great enough to keep us in check, agreements aren't worth the paper they're printed on. Right? The actions of the sovereign cannot be justly accused by the subjects. The sovereign's acting in an unjust manner. How? Right? How is that possible? The sovereign can't act in an unjust manner. The sovereign is justice. That's where we get justice from having a sovereign in the first place. Along the same lines, the actions of the sovereign power are not punishable. Why? Well, think of it this way. I authorize this person. You authorize this person. We both authorize this person, right, to do whatever the heck they want. Right? this sovereign power is not punishable because the sovereign power itself is the locus of justice. And when somebody acts authorized with somebody else's power, we who authorize the sovereign are bound by that power, by the judgments of our representative. If we think back to chapter 16, right, when somebody is authorized to make a deal, it binds the owner of that authority, us, right, and not the actor, the sovereign. Right? And number 6, this is the scariest one. The sovereign is the judge of what is necessary for the peace and defense of the subjects. And following from this, sovereign power has the right to judge what doctrines, opinions, etc. are to be taught in a commonwealth. Right? That sounds scary. But federally mandated standardized tests, what are those? They are the sovereign power of either Canada, the United States, whatever nation you happen to be in, right, dictating what doctrines and opinions are taught. Right? They set the curriculum. Right? The right of making rules of property and belongs to the sovereign. Right? If you think about it, if you own anything, who says you own it? The law. Right? That's where private property ownership comes from in the first place. So the sovereign tells you what you can own, how much of it you can own, and that you can own it for as long as the sovereign decides you can own it. Right? The sovereign has the right to be absolute judge over over controversies. Right? So if you and I get into a dispute, what do? We go to court, allow sovereign power to determine exactly what goes on. Right? The sovereign's absolute judge. Right? The sovereign has the right to decide whether to go to war or stay at peace. That's the way it is with our government. Right? And of choosing counselors and ministers of both peace and war. That's the way it works in our government. The sovereign can reward and punish arbitrarily as he sees fit. Right? There are certain efficient means of maintaining power and control, national stability, which usually aren't transgressed, but nonetheless, this is a power that lays in the hand of our government. And the sovereign sets standards of honor, dishonor, good and evil, etc., and is in command of the means to enforce them. These are the rights of the sovereign. They can't be, and they cannot be transferred. If they are transferred to generals and ministers, etc., the real power behind their application remains that of sovereign power. Hobbes notes that even though giving such power to one individual may seem like a risky or bleak proposition, it's not as bad as the lack of such a common power. Now, it's possible to be really critical of Hobbes about the power of this sovereign. But if we think of our own societies, right, I own things to the extent that the government tells me I can own things. I have rights, civil liberties, to the extent that the government says I have rights and civil liberties. When it comes right down to it, any government in a condition of emergency or disaster withholds the right to suspend all of our individual rights and freedoms and declare martial law. They usually don't. If our countries went to war, they could draft us and tell us, what you do now is take this gun and go over there and kill those people. Defend your country. Right? This is a descriptive account of the power of our nations. This is what a commonwealth is, Hobbes wants to claim. Right? And what's more, for as long as there has been history recorded, as long as there's been shared innovation and shared goods towards a common purpose, right, we have come to the judgment that having one of these is better than lacking one of these.